From our research, we found that female characters in films are commonly represented as being vulnerable, dependent, and sometimes using their sexuality to be manipulative. These common conventions are just a few of many stereotypical words to describe female characters. However, if we compare past and present films with leading female roles, such as Carrie, where the main character Carrie is portrayed as being weak and vulnerable, as she is left out and is intimidated by other characters. This can be seen through the character's body language, such as crossing her arms over her body and the use of high angles. However, this contrasts with the film The Hunger Games, where the character of Katniss is seen as strong and independent and subverts to common conventions of female characters. On the other hand, male characters in films are seen as strong, aggressive, and very masculine. Unlike the representations of women in films, men have always been the main hero and have rescued or have been a threat to women. Both are ways in which their power and aggression are portrayed. For example, in the film franchise James Bond, the main character James is seen to be powerful and very masculine, as he is always the character to save the female character from being harmed. He is also shown to be powerful as he kills and successfully completes his missions with ease. In contrast, some more modern films such as The Perks of Being a Wallflower, where the main male character is seen as shy and vulnerable compared to his strong female co-star. This subverts common representations of both genders, especially in the coming-of-age genre, as the female character is mostly seen as a weaker character compared to their male co-star.
Out of the two characters in our film opening, one of them is the victim who ultimately gets stabbed by the killer. Having a victim character is common for slasher films, as the protagonist is usually either the killer or the victim. She is shown to be a victim through her presentation of being vulnerable, which again is a common way of presenting the victim in horror films. My deconstruction of the opening scene of the film Black Swan highlights the idea of having a victim, as the first shot is of the protagonist, who in this case is the victim, and having her put in a situation in which she is vulnerable in the opening scene. Our victim character is also presented as modernistic, through her costume and the props she uses. This is common for modern slasher films, and it's conventional as we set the film opening in present day rather than in a different time period.
As Josh plays the killer in our film opening, the age of our killer is 17 years old. This is unconventional for the killer to be this age in a slasher horror film, as they are usually older middle-aged men who are stalking and tracking their victim who they seek to kill. This is shown through my research of the killer's age, as I created a blog on the common conventions of the killer's age. This shows that in most slasher films, the killer is middle-aged. However, we conform to common representations of teenagers, as our victim, played by Lucy, uses her phone a lot during our film opening. This is shown through her playing music and answering phone calls. Other common conventions of teenagers that we conform to include her being vulnerable as she is being stalked before she is killed, and her being independent as she walks on her own through the opening scene. However, we do subvert common conventions of teenagers by not showing her as being reckless or rebellious in any way, and not being selfish in our film opening, as this would not fit with our genre and would ruin the mood of our film opening.
Our opening scene presents a social group of killers as predatory and psychopathic. This is evident through the killer in our scene conforming to the conventions of that of the slasher genre. We chose to use a knife as a weapon as it represents a sense of instability and mental corruption. We implemented a lot of conventions after deconstructing murder weapons that were common in the area in which we were filming. As you can see, the knife crime rate is substantially higher on average than guns. This accompanied research into murder weapons used in slasher films, also as bladed weapons are some of the most common weapons of choice for killers. Knives are also more intimate and passionate. They show a better relationship, both the murderer and the victim. This gave the killer a common yet psychopathic depiction in our film. Also, to make him predatory, we made the killer follow the victim, partially unknown to the victim, which showed that we could be conforming, as through research of killers, they have a predatory element to their characters. And finally, our audience were approving of the whole idea as seen as our survey, making our representation of killers conform even further to the slasher genre.
Created using Powtoon.